Praise the name of the Lord and good evening. It's gorgeous time again where we talk about beautiful women, gorgeous women, women that have been empowered by their stories to empower others and of course by the help of God. I'm Reverend Ruth Wamoyo on CTN TV Live and on Facebook. Kindly reach out to your friends and family and anybody near you that is going through some tough moments, and in case your life is still okay, you can be inspired and empowered to know that there is always hope after a trial. I have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Kellen Wanjagi, and she comes from Tharaka Nithi County. That is something she said with so much pride in, because where you come from carries your story, and that is what it is enriching her today. And you're most welcome, Kellen.
Thank you.
What a joy to have you around.
Thank you very much.
Your story is about a story of emotional abuse and of course domestic violence, and later ended up in divorce.
Yes.
And congratulations, because you didn't come out empty-handed.
Yes.
You're a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 1.
Yes.
What a blessing.
Thank
so
you.
kindly tell us about who Kellen is and your siblings, where you come from, a basic introduction about who you are.
Kellen is a born-again woman.
Amen.
I love the Lord as my personal savior.
Amen.
As you have mentioned, I come from Tharaka Nithi County,
Yes.
particularly a place called Chogoria.
Chogoria.
It's a little town within that county.
But somehow very popular. I think it's because of the mission, everything, mission hospital,
Yes.
mission
Yes.
schools. Yeah.
Yes, yes. We had the missionaries who came there pretty early.
Yeah.
And so Chogoria was developed from a very long time. Like we have the Chogoria Mission Hospital.
Yes.
We have Chogoria boys and Chogoria girls. So I guess that's where we are in the map. And
Oh,
well
yes.
known.
Oh, yes. Great.
Yes, and so I come from a family of 6. We have 4 girls and 2 boys. I'm the 5th in the family.
5th.
Yes.
Oh.
And my father passed on 2006. So we are just with my mom.
Okay.
My mom is 84 and
Oh.
doing very well.
Glory be to God.
Yes.
That is a blessing of long life.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. She's also as gorgeous.
Oh, how nice. Of
Yes.
course, at 84.
Yes.
Hey, if she's still pushing through, it tells you that she's lived her life well.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
great.
Keeping very well and strong. Yes.
So, where do you go to church? Are you a minister, or is there anything you do in the house of God?
I go to Nairobi Chapel
Oh, yeah.
on Ngong Road. Well, currently I'm not directly serving in the ministry. I used to serve in the prayer ministry for a very long time. But obviously because of my experience at some point I did step out because I needed to find myself and to heal and to be able to continue with the work of God. And I've been on the journey of healing and getting very well. And I'm still very active, of course, within the church. It's just that I haven't been back into active ministry. But I am still a very active member, very well known even to the leadership of the church.
Great.
Yes.
So did you begin, like grow up in Sunday school the regular way, graduated into youth ministry? Did you go through that spiritual process of nourishment and spiritual growth?
Yes, my father was very strict in church matters. And we grew up through the PCA church.
Yeah.
And he always ensured we had to go to church.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I thank him very much because he helped us understand who God was at a very young stage.
Yeah.
And even at adolescence, the way adolescents can be a bit naughty. Want
Yes,
to run away.
and very rebellious.
He always made sure we were in church.
Oh, great.
And so I grew up, having the fear of God in me.
Amen.
And so even when I went to high school, I was not a riotous girl per se. I was obedient. I was an easy girl. But for me, meeting Christ was when I got married. That was in 1993. At that time, we were living in Umoja. So actually, I gave my life to Christ while I was at Umoja Deliverance.
Oh.
That is when now I started my walk with Christ.
Amen.
So I can say, I've always known God from a very little age. And now at the point now when I gave my life to Christ, I now started my walk and have been growing. And up to this point, I can say surely the Lord has been good.
Amen. So you got married in church? Because your story is about marriage. So did you get married in church? You said you got born again after you were married. So how did you get transition into marriage?
what happened is, after I finished my college, because I'm trained as a secretary, so I went to a college in Isiolo. And what used to happen with that college is we were always assured of jobs because it was connected to the government in some sort. So we would always be assured of jobs, so we'd be posted. So I was posted to Nairobi. That is where I started working.
Good.
And within a very short time, apparently we worked in the same building with my ex-husband. He was a few floors above me and I was below. And that's where we met.
Oh, great.
And so I remember not knowing so much how to maneuver relationships.
Yes.
I'm pretty young. I'm 22 at that point. So I don't know much about relationships. And I meet him. Obviously, he was much, he was older than me, about 7 years older than me.
Yeah.
So he had been through life much more than I had been. And so our courtship was very short.
Okay.
It was 6 months.
6 months.
And within those 6 months, I became pregnant. And you know, with young girls of those days.
Oh yeah, you can't bring shame to your family.
You can't bring shame.
Yeah.
So the panic, and I was wondering, what do I do now? I'm pregnant, and I had to gather myself and go tell my parents, because you know, at least I knew, you know, my parents getting to know what has happened was very important. So I went to Chogoria and I told my parents that I am pregnant. I met this young man, and yes, I'm pregnant. So I remember my late dad looking at the whole scenario, and he was encouraging. I expected him to be very mad at me because
but he was encouraging.
He was a very strict father, very principled, but he understood, and he said, you know what, I'm not going to be hard on you because at least you have a job.
Yes.
So if, you know, the guy who's responsible for this pregnancy decides to ruka, you're fine, you're covered. You will be able to take care of your child, and you can be able to go on with life. And so my dad helped me even to organize my finances, because at that time also, I don't know anything about finances. What did we know those days when it came to these
we were
things?
very naive.
There was nothing much that we knew. Good. So my dad helped me to organize myself and to organize my finances. He gave me a plan. You don't panic. Go back, stay with your sister, because at that time I was living with my sister. Remember, I'm very fresh in Nairobi, so I don't even know much about Nairobi life. So I was staying with my sister, my elder sister. She was my guardian.
Great. Just hold that thought. We take a short break and then get into the story, delve into the life of marriage. But unfortunately, later it broke. But we want to go through the journey of her story. See you after the break. Welcome back, my viewer. It's what a joy to have you on board. Kindly continue sharing with your friends and family. So, Kellen, now you get married. You are living with your elder sister. At what time did you get married?
Obviously, we did a lot of backdoor things, like what used to happen many times. So when the baby came, while I was still staying at my sister's place, I was able to stay with her for like a month. And in between that time, I remember there was a lot of negotiations between my sister and my ex-husband, because my sister felt, take your responsibility. Don't you dare try to run away. You know, and so every time he would be around, it would always be sessions of talking and, you know, telling him, you're not leaving my sister and you have to take care of her, and you know, you can't just abandon her and her child. And so one evening, he just came for me, now from my sister's house. I remember I was very scared and very confused. But because I didn't want to let everyone down, I said, okay, let me just move on with him, and so that I can be able to bring up this child together with him as a father. And that's how I found myself now in his house. And one evening, I found myself as a wife. You know, I'm a mother and an employer, because on the same evening, I picked a girl. Those days where girls used to come into the estate looking for jobs. So
and they were trustworthy those times.
Yes, those days they were
it was really genuine.
Yes, so I picked a girl and we went with her, and now I started life.
An employer, same day, a mother, a wife.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's how I started the life now of the marriage at that point. So we lived together, and then we did our wedding now, the Christian wedding, a church wedding, when we were exactly the baby was exactly 1 year. Our daughter was exactly
So
9.
your marriage was just an ordinary marriage, just happy raising a kid together?
Yes.
Or was there anything that you noticed that now you can relate to that was out of the norm?
The funny thing is, you remember the courtship was very short.
Very short, 6 months.
So I didn't quite know him. So I now started knowing him when I'm already in the marriage, in the house. And I started seeing crazy, funny things. And I would ask myself, is this the way marriage works? But now I didn't know who to ask. And I would just, think, well, maybe I'm dreaming. He'll get better. And we'd continue, and I see more stuff. And
what
more
are
stuff.
those things that you could highlight?
For example, like isolating me, because I started by, I'd ask, can I go and see my sister? My sister wasn't staying very far away from where now I moved to, so it was just a walking distance. And I would ask, can I go and visit my sister this weekend? I'm told no. And I ask why? He will not give an explanation. He just says no. And that would really frustrate me. And another thing I can think of is my mother would come visiting in Nairobi. So she would go and stay at my sister's place. Again, I'm told my mom is around, so I need to go and visit her. And then I go, as a good wife, I go and ask for permission. Can I go and see mom? She's at our sister's place. And he says no. I said, did you hear? I said, it's mom who is around. Can I go and see her and, just spend time as family?
Yeah.
I would be told no. And I would wonder, why? Now because I'm trying to be the good wife,
Yes.
I would stay, but it would hurt me so much.
Oh yes, especially
So it
with
happened a
family.
few times, and one time mom said, okay, fine, if she can't come, let me go. And that's when she came and found me. And I remember when she came in, at the moment I saw her, I started crying. And she asked me, what is it? I said, nothing, I'm okay. And she said, no, but you're crying. I said, I was too afraid to even tell mom anything. Because what am I even going to explain?
Yes.
He hasn't even touched me. I'm just wondering why I
Yeah.
can't go see my mom.
Yeah.
And she has come in, and I can't visit my sister. I couldn't even visit my friends at that time. And I'm wondering, how do I now explain to my mom?
Yeah, I
what
think the
this is?
emotional meltdown happened when you saw the very person you care for most.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so how did he react to your mother's coming?
He wasn't there. When
wasn't.
she would come to visit mostly during the day, because even now I think my mom was sensing this. He's a bit strict or something, so I
Yeah.
better just sneak in, spend some time with my daughter, and then I can leave, and then she'll be left to sort herself out.
Yeah.
So she would actually come in, we spend time with her, and then she would take off before he comes back. Because I didn't understand what this issue was.
Yes.
Is it because you don't want me to have any
Or is it you don't
visiting?
like my people?
Is it because you don't like my people?
Yeah.
Is it that you just want me to hang around? What is it? It was really confusing.
Okay, so
Yes.
isolation was one of the key
Yes.
things that you noted.
Yes.
Any other thing that you can remember? Verbally, was he abusive verbally?
Yes.
Would he withdraw or probably he was the kind that would withdraw his emotions?
Yes, withdrawing his emotions and also the words, calling me names, and also making me do stuff, chores. Like, I'll give a simple example of like preparing clothes for him, I'm being this good wife and I want to make sure that he's smart, and I make a choice of what clothes he needs to wear, and he changes again and again.
Oh,
and then even after he's changed like 3 times, he still won't wear that. He'll pick something else.
And you still have to prepare,
And
you iron it.
I'd still have to iron it. There was no way I was going to
And would
see
he
him.
say thank you?
No, he wouldn't say thank you. He'd just pick them and just, put on his clothes, and he wouldn't even say bye. He disappears. And then I'm left wondering, okay, in those days there were no mobile phones. I wouldn't even know if he's coming back, where he's gone to, what to expect. I would just be left now to sort myself with all these emotions. And remember, I'm a young mother, so many times...
And you're working as well.
And I'm working as well. So there's all this confusion, and I'm thinking, okay, fine, maybe this is the way marriage should be. Let me just go on with this life. And I would go to the office, and I remember I would spend most of the day just thinking to myself, what is all this about? But I don't even know who to ask. So I go home, I carry my misery back, and I have to, go through this again and again and again. The other thing I remember is even asking for items that are needed in the house was also very complicated. Yes, I had a salary, But I believed that as a married couple, you need to have provision from him.
Yeah.
But
money was supposed to be, the budget of the home was supposed to be co-shared.
Exactly.
And of course, the man bears a major responsibility
exactly.
in it. Yeah.
But I realized that was now becoming very difficult, and I would be left wondering, what do I do? So I would squeeze my little salary as much as possible, and most of the time then that would mean I'm left with almost nothing. Because I'm taking
So
care
he'd make sure you're spent.
Yes.
So that you're grounded.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
So I have no money. So even if I want to go and visit whoever I want to visit, I don't even have extra money because my little salary is all stretched out completely. So that again disturbed me a lot. But again, who do I go to?
Yeah.
So I began to internalize slowly by slowly, and that's affected me because I started losing weight. I started looking unhappy. I started looking very, confused, but I would pretend because obviously being a secretary in the office, you're the face of the office.
Yes.
So when your boss's visitors come, it's you they find. So I had to try to pretend.
Just to manage the situation.
Just to manage the situation.
Because you can't lose this job.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Wow.
The other thing I remember is I could never get home after him. If I got home after him, I'm in trouble.
What would happen?
He would lock me out. And I would sleep outside there. No matter what I did, I would sleep outside there. So, and the evenings were most scary. So anytime in the evening, even if it's 7 p.m., the fact that he's gotten into the house before me, I'll sleep outside my house. So that was very painful, I remember. And a few times I used to go to neighbors and ask, can you give me somewhere to sleep? I did that a few times, and I thought, for how long am I going to do this? So now I started just sleeping outside there.
Didn't you have an extra key that you could open the door?
I did not have any. I hadn't even thought at that point even of getting an extra key. Those things came much, much later about getting an extra key now, and also thinking.
I think he gave you shock therapy.
Yes.
So you were in shock.
I was in total shock. Remember, I'm young, so I'm not even able to think.
Yeah, and you're also afraid. You don't know how far he can go.
Exactly.
Did you ever see any sign of physical violence? Like he would become physical at one time?
He never got physical. That was a funny thing.
Wow.
He never got physical. In fact, much, much later as we progressed in the marriage and the children became bigger, I remember him telling the children, I could never hit your mom. I can never.
With a lot of pride.
With a lot of pride. I can never. I didn't know that meant I won't hit you, but I'll hit you in another way.
And how was he as a father?
He tried a little bit, but got tired very easily. He tried a bit to be with the little girl.
So very impatient.
Small, but he was very impatient, was hardly around. So at a very early stage, I found myself, just bringing up the children on my own. And I felt that also brought in a lot of confusion and loneliness.
Oh, yes.
I became very lonely in the marriage at a very early stage. And you see, remember, all this time I don't know who to talk to, because had I known then, maybe I'd have tried to approach a relative or somebody, find out what's happening. I need help. I was getting in this marriage because it's a companionship and it's a partnership.
And then it's very hard for you to quantify emotional abuse.
Exactly.
Because what will you tell people?
Exactly.
They'll ask you, he's not beating you. Mm-hmm. Then you'll be lost for words and look like you are just a whining wife.
Exactly.
So when you tried, did you have the courage to confront him? Or
for a very long time, I didn't have the courage because the first thing that he did was to implant fear in me. So I was always very afraid of approaching him. And I remember every time being around him was like walking on eggshells. I needed not to make a mistake, because if I do, I'll be told a very bad word. The reaction will be very bad. So I was never able to approach him per se, until some point now when I got our second born son came, and now I started feeling totally lost and confused. And that's when even people around started noticing, this guy is hardly around. And so a neighbor would ask me, uko peke yako? And I'm like, yes, I'm still alone. And then I could see maybe she's sympathizing and trying to see, can I put some sense in this girl? Because now, why is she alone? Yeah. So she would try to throw questions that were suggestive. as to why am I in this situation, what is happening to me, and what can I do about it. So this neighbor would try to have a conversation with me, and I would slowly, you know, I grew into having a conversation with her, and slowly she tried to help me understand what all this is. But still my eyes were not very, very open because I was too afraid. That fear, I remember, was too much. So I was only able to confront him much, 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 much later.
And you felt like you're not good enough? Because
Absolutely.
definitely when he carries that kind of personality, he's very hard to please.
Yes.
He'll keep doing that until he erodes your self-definition.
Yes.
So you're no longer able to define whether you are right, whether you're wrong. They challenge your sense of judgment. So I'm trying to think, what kept you there? What was driving you there? Because at some point maybe you were feeling trapped, but what kept you there?
Remember now, when we got married, 1993, the same year, is the same year that I got saved.
Yeah.
And what I would hear in church was, you know, the Proverbs 31 woman, submission, you know. And so I tried as much as possible to be that woman, that Proverbs 31 woman. And then I needed to submit because the Bible says I submit. And then the other thing is I always used to kind of look at what I had seen around with my aunties, my mom's friends, their kind of marriages, and I would think, okay, I think that's the way it should be, so I'll just persevere. Okay. And then finally, when the time came to be able to share a bit with my mom, because even then I wasn't able to understand what it was, she would always tell me, does he hit you? Then I would say no. Then my mom would say, okay, fine, if he doesn't hit you, is he providing? Is he, you know, is he around? I would say, yeah, in a way, you know. And so to mom, as long as he's not hitting
as long
me,
as you are safe.
Then I'm okay. Physically, then I'm okay.
Wow. I will take a break for a while and then continue with the story. Emotional abuse is abuse. And is actually, it may not be like abrupt, you can't see physical signs immediately, but it gradually erodes you. And that is why this program will enlighten you to know and detect emotional abuse. And of course, based on the story of Kaylin, we are going to know when to leave and the signs that are there. It's always a joy to have you on the Gorgeous Woman Show, CTN TV, and of course in our social media platforms. Share with your friends and see you after the break. Welcome back, our viewer. So, Kellen, your mom came and you were able to open up to her, but still, like, they would mark the list. Does he beat you? No. Does he provide? Yes. Is he there? Kind of. So, what was your conversation with your mom, and was it an eye-opener?
Unfortunately not, because my mom, to her, and I don't blame her, because she came from the school of thought that as long as it's not physical, then you're okay. She never took or understood domestic violence as anything else than the physical, what we always know. And so is the story outside there. Many people don't quite understand what emotional abuse is, because every time you see stories, even on TV, what is mostly highlighted is the physical. Because you hear so-and-so was cut, so-and-so was done this. And even when it comes even to the healing process and moving on, you're able to see a wound and you actually watch it healing, and you kind of are able to move on. But the emotional sticks with you in the inside.
Because it actually alters who you are.
Exactly. And so inside you start to rot, let me use that for lack of a better word, you begin to rot from the inside. And so your self-esteem goes, you begin to get affected physically. Like, for me, I was very thin. I remember my mom always telling me, why don't you eat chips every day then and see if we are going to add some little weight.
Is it that you were not eating?
I was eating, but the food just wasn't going anywhere because I'm too stressed. Now from where I sit, I understand, because stress actually causes a lot of other issues in your body. It even causes strange diseases.
Oh yes, it does.
I've come across women who tell me I have had this and this disease, and I remember myself, I had even a skin condition on my leg for a very long time, and all those are causes of the stress. That's why this emotional abuse, to me, I feel is such a monster. It's a quiet monster.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And because it doesn't have physical signs, like you said, until probably a prolonged period of exposure.
Yes.
Did he ever feel remorseful?
Never.
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 Okay.
Never. He never, even as we sit even today, if he was to be asked, there's nothing wrong with him. And there's nothing wrong that he could ever have done.
So when did you say enough is enough?
By the time I was saying enough is enough, I was totally depressed. I had been in and out of depression. By this time, we'd had our fourth born, who is 9 years now. And I remember throughout that pregnancy, I was totally depressed. It was so painful that I felt this is a bit too much. And I started thinking, because my late father really believed in me and really felt I had a lot of potential. And for some reason, I started reflecting a lot on what my dad used to tell me. And I started feeling I'm not living the kind of life that my dad actually thought I should live. Number two, obviously, God made a lot of sense in my life. As weak as I was emotionally, I still clung to God.
Wow, let me take you back a little bit. You get the first child, the second child, the third child, the fourth child. I'm trying to imagine for you to get a child, there must have been a conversation. Did it ever occur to him he was not nice to you? And did you ever try to raise the issue as you got children? Because at the end of it all, one child has come, the next one has come, the next one has come. Did it ever occur to you as a couple, like you told him, let's have a conversation? The way you treat me is not good, and we are having children. Did it ever occur in your marriage?
I did try to talk to him about it. Now, the marriage was much advanced, and I did try to tell him I'm not happy at all. Things are not working well, and I'll try as much as possible to have this discussion, in a sense, to also demonstrate to him, I'm not just talking about you. We are in this together. Let's try and sort out. If there's anything I'm not doing that, right, let me know so that I can correct. And the same way with you, I would want you to hear me out so that you can be able to do things in a better way so that we can move together. He would hear none of that. I remember one time we went for counseling with one of our pastors in some church that I was in at that point.
Who initiated it?
It was I.
Okay. And
so we went through the counseling, and I remember, unfortunately, towards the end of the sessions, I was called on my own by this pastor who was counseling us, and she said, to be honest with you, lady, I think you're in trouble. And,
wow.
If you think you're able to continue living that way, well and good. If you feel it's a bit difficult, then I think you need to look for help. And that coming from a pastor,
how was he in the counseling session? Was he passive, or he was answering questions? Was he participating?
He would participate, but the way he'd answered, I think the way the counselor saw it, the way he answered the questions, actually brought out the arrogance and the fact that he was just a complicated character. And that's why she had this one session with me, just kind of to tell me some facts.
And this is after you had been diagnosed with depression?
Yes.
How severe was it?
It was severe because at some point I was getting panic attacks.
Wow.
I had now begun fainting. I would pass out for like 20 minutes. I would always be rushed to the hospital, and my heart would be racing so hard. And I remember one time, 2002, I actually almost died because now these panic attacks were becoming too much, and I had lots of migraines. I'd always have headaches that are too complex, And one time I remember going to the hospital, and one doctor saw me and he told me, I've seen you here a few times. What is the problem? I said, I am not in a happy marriage. And he tried to give me a few minute counseling, but I couldn't,
couldn't get it.
Grab much of it. And so I had reached a point even painkillers were not working very well. So I used to be given drugs through the vein. And this particular time, I had been there on a Monday, and it didn't work. I went back on a Wednesday, and that's when I was given this drug again. And because at that particular time our son was in hospital, he had been hospitalized in the same hospital, he was now nagging and saying, let's go home. He's not thinking I'm not well, he's just saying, let's go home. And I'm saying, I know the child is in hospital, I'm also not well, and doctor has given instructions that this drug needs to be taken slowly, because now I used to sleep, because the drug used to help me to relax, so that at least I can sleep, because I hardly used to sleep. So he comes and says, no, we are going home. I said, okay, fine, if you're insisting, just hold my hand, we go, you take me to the car, then we go home. I was with my firstborn daughter.
Because you couldn't be able to walk.
I couldn't walk. So my firstborn daughter tried to tell him, the doctor said that mom needs to relax so that that drug can take effect. He could hear none of it. So I said, okay, fine, you carry me to the car and then we go. I took 2 steps and collapsed. And for the next few minutes, I don't know where I was, I had gone to another world. And at the time I came back, because I remember I was actually negotiating with Jesus and saying, Jesus, my children, no, my children. And that's when I woke up and I found I had been poked all over and the machine was on. And I asked the nurse, what happened? She said, you passed out. You just passed out, but you're okay. We're happy.
And he was not guilty at all?
No. Well, he panicked at that particular time and called my neighbor, my friends, a few friends, and my sister. I found my sister there, his sister. So I found the room full of people, because probably he thought, wow, she's gone and I don't know how to explain this. But when I came back, I remember really feeling happy that I'm back, because I felt I had gone and I was going to leave my children. And I just asked, please pray, let's pray. Because I wanted to thank God that, I'm back. So that particular time, I remember I was almost gone.
So he prayed with you?
My sister-in-law, I remember, prayed. Mm-hmm. So we all prayed in the room, and we went back home. And I thought, at least this experience would bring some sense in him.
You always hope, like every other positive wife.
Exactly.
He will change.
Exactly.
And the children, how are they affected by all this?
Now, my children, of course, got affected. That's the other thing that people need to understand, that children do get affected. Mm-hmm. We want to assume that they won't get affected, but they see, they feel, and they also begin to hurt.
Yes.
Because they are wondering, how do we deal with these 2 grown-ups who are not, kind of feeling each other, and they are not working well together. Mm-hmm. So they start to quietly internalize also. So with my firstborn daughter, she had self-esteem issues and self-confidence. Wow. Because, growing up, remember now he's very absent, so she doesn't have daddy around. So she began...
But he never used to be verbally abusive to the children?
He wasn't verbally abusive to the children. But, as we progressed, at some point, I remember he would say negative comments to them about me. Oh. This, your mother. This thing, your mother. So they would think, why would you talk about our mom in a negative way like that? So my firstborn daughter was affected. Her self-confidence was a bit of a problem, but we worked on it, because all my children actually had to go for counseling also. Oh, and that has also helped them now to become better and, face life more positively. Mm-hmm. My second-born son got into drugs because he needed to numb the pain. As I got to understand from the therapist later. Because for him, he was frustrated. He was thinking, how can I help my mother? He could see my mom is struggling. How can I help her? And at some point, I remember he even wanted to leave college so that he can get a job and then get some little money and help mom. Because he could see now mom has become totally helpless. But when I realized that, we had a talk with him, and I said, you know what, you need to lead your life. Don't stop school because of me. Please continue with school, and so that you can be able even to build yourself better. Mom will be okay. And he was very, he was not happy about that whole story. So he struggled a little bit, but even he went through lots of therapy, and now he's very well, doing very well. Amen. He's doing music production. Amen. A very strong young man. Glory he actually has ended up being my pillar.
After 22 years, that's when it dawned on you need to walk out.
Yes.
So what now broke you now completely, and you said, I can't take it anymore?
Now, I had been in and out of depression many times. And so this time I get into another depression. And I felt, no, this is now after baby number 4. Baby number 4 has come and, you know, we are going on with life. But the pattern of denial of finances, denial of providence is still going on. And now I felt this is going to go on and on and on for a very long time. So I actually delved into another depression. And I started feeling, no, this can't continue like this. And I remember my elder sister, you know, noticed there's something that is not very right. And I said, because at that point I was leading as a shepherd leader in one of our, we call them e-groups, home group fellowships. I felt, I can't continue like this and I'm a shepherd leader in church. I need to go and look for help. So I went to church, and that's when I talked to the pastor who was in charge of the e-groups at that particular time, and a lady who was leading us in the prayer counseling sessions. So I shared with them the story, and I told them everything, and what had brought, and because I was so broken at that point, and I remember just crying as I was telling the story. And that's when they said, listen, Kellen, yes, God hates divorce, but God has not created you for this. Yeah. This is too much. And you know, when they said that, I was like, what? Coming from church? Yeah. I was very shocked. But, and then this lady, friend of mine, she said, you need help. I said, what kind of help? She said, you need legal help. Now, at that time, I had been in and out of jobs, and at that particular time, I didn't have a job. Because remember, I'm not stable in jobs, so I can't sustain a job. And of course, you're sickly. And I'm sickly. Yeah. So at that particular time, I didn't have a job through the pregnancy and after the pregnancy. So when she mentions legal, I said, I don't have money. Don't even go that way. And she said, don't worry. I will refer you to a certain organization where you can go and get help. And that's when she sent me to Feeder Kenya. And that's where I started my journey. I remember when I got there, I was totally broken. I didn't know who I was. I remember a few times I would be asked my name, and I would take a few seconds to think about my name. It was that serious. So when I got to this organization, the lady I found there did an assessment, because that's what they do. And then she asked me, what do you want? After all this story you've told me, what do you want? And I said, amidst a lot of tears, I said, I want a divorce. And she said, you know what, Kellen, if I take you to a court of law right now, you're going to be so broken. You won't be able to face this process because you're so broken, you're in the woods. Yes. So instead of you rushing to court, I need to take you through counseling. I said, well, fine. So I went through counseling for about 1.5 years, which was very good. That lady
still in the home?
Yes, still in the home. So I'm now learning, because she told me, I want to help you to have coping mechanisms to live and continue living within that geographical area. Because she felt even if I take off in that condition, I will not be able to handle the situations. It will just add more insults into the injury. So I went through the counseling, and then I started finding myself and feeling good about myself. I learned to say no to some things that he was doing.
Did he now, like, got shocked when he saw now the new you that is emerging?
Yes, he got shocked.
Did he accuse you of infidelity?
Of course he did.
Yeah, because of that confidence.
Yes, he started saying, in fact, I remember he would come home from the blues at whatever hour, and he says, give me your phone. And he starts to scroll over my phone to try and find out which mail I may have called during that. Because he's not understanding.
The strings are breaking. Yes. Wow, our viewer, it's sad, but sometimes it's just good to laugh at calamity at times. Because that is not who you are. It's just what you're going through, and God will take you through it victoriously. My guest has been honest about her story, and she came here because she wants to empower and inspire you. See you after the break as we hear how the Lord has been walking with her. Welcome back, our viewer. We are enjoying the Gorgeous Woman Show on CTN TV. Always a joy to have you. So, Kellen, you go to Feeder, you go through therapy, you are empowered, and now the new you begins to emerge. Yes. Kindly share with us some of the coping mechanisms that you are taught and how you applied them.
One of the things that I remember I learned at Feeder Kenya is just to say no. You know, no is a very simple word.
Yes.
But you know, as I know, I've had these stereotypes statement that people say, women say no, yet they mean yes.
Yes.
But for me, I learned to say I really,
And
I
no,
really
no.
know.
And a yes, yes.
And I really yes.
Yeah.
And mean it. And so slowly by slowly, I began to get really strong, because what I learned and what I have picked and always applied up to today is simple self-love. Just understanding there's nothing wrong with liking who I am.
Yes.
Because remember, I had been told how stupid I am,
How ugly you look.
ugly I am. And it had actually reached to a point I'd look at myself in the mirror and think I'm ugly.
Oh, yes.
You know, but I began now to love myself and to start to do little things that make me feel good. As simple as even buying a fruit. You know, wow. When I would have money, I would be buying stuff for the kids, and I would say, this one is mine, and I will eat
And
it.
it's so common for mothers. You can find yourself buying for everyone,
yes,
minus
yes.
you. So yes. You started taking the ground you had yielded to him.
Yes.
How did he react?
The reaction wasn't good. I remember him one time telling me, you're not the young girl that I married. You're totally different. And then, of course, trying to insinuate that I was being unfaithful, because I would find time now to be outside much more than being indoors. Even if it's a neighbor, talking to a neighbor outside there. And he would come and make noise and say, why were you talking to that neighbor? And I would ask, I was just saying hello. There's nothing wrong that I was doing. Because
but you no longer lock you outside again.
You no longer lock me outside again.
Yeah.
And I managed now to go on with my life. And I thought to myself, because the other thing that women need to understand is that your truth is most important.
Yes.
Don't be accused of somebody that you're having an affair out there and start to fear and think, you know, you even start to doubt yourself. Because if you know your truth, then why are you worried? Go do what you're doing, as long as it's not out of the ordinary. And you know, honestly, you're being honest with yourself, and in the eyes of God, you're not doing anything strange. Go do your thing and come back home.
Let me ask you this, because it's very important. Did you at one time catch him unfaithful? Or maybe was there a case of infidelity?
Yes, there was. Yes, there was.
Once or many times?
A lot of times. A lot of times.
And you'd always forgive?
Yes, I would forgive.
How did you come to learn about it?
Many times I would be told by other people. Unfortunately, when these things happen, the wife is always the last person to know.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time I would find out, you know, I learned it's been on for a very, very long time. And so the first time I would find about it and confront him, and he tells me, it's none of your business, it's my life. You know, never at any time was he remorseful. Until it reached a point I realized this is just who he wants to be.
And did he ever admit to having an affair?
Not at any time. He was always denying, and that was what hurt me most.
Oh, yeah.
How I wish he would even say, I accept, and then let's see which way forward. But every time it was always never, no. And I had to deal with it, and he was so adamant and would just leave me to deal with the emotions no matter what. And that now was making it very complicated.
And he still make advances at you, even after doing that?
Yes, he would.
He would still want you to behave like a couple?
Yes, he would. Yes, he would. And look very happy outside there like nothing is happening. And not, you know, shout outside there.
Were you going to church together?
Most of the time, it would be me and my children. A few times he would come to church, but you know, many times I was just alone with my children because he resisted the church. He would say, he would criticize wherever the church and say those people are not talking the good things.
Of course, he would isolate you from your family, the church. Everybody will think this significant so that he can gain control.
Exactly.
So after 1.5 years of counseling, so when was this day you said enough is enough and you packed your things and left?
Now, that was after I had done my counseling, and now I found myself in this process. Even I've started looking for the talents that I have. I've started even sewing. I've started a little company. I'm making curtains and making now a little money here and there. And so I'm feeling very good about myself. And so one day I walk back to FIDA and I say, I'm now ready for divorce. And they say, because you see, they've already walked the journey with me. You know, people have a separate notion about FIDA Kenya. They always think that FIDA,
is
they
out
push
for,
you.
they push
and they
you.
just want to break families. No, that is not right. I can say that with confidence. Because I'm the one who went back to them now and said, I want you people to help me to go through this legal journey. And they said, Kellen, we've worked with you and we know your story, and this is you who has come back to us. We will work with you. And that's how I started the proceedings of the divorce. And I always want to say this. For me, I totally felt God was with me, because I had prayed a lot about this whole situation. And at some point I had felt God had said, it's okay. And so when I went for the divorce, I remember I went for it with a promise. God gave me a promise I'll never forget. And he told me, I will part the waters for you. Just the way I parted the waters for the children of Israel. At that point, I didn't understand. So I filed for my divorce in January 2015. And in June of 2015, the divorce had been through, which is very rare. In fact, even FIDA Kenya told me, how? Which God do you pray? I said, I pray to the God.
It takes years.
It takes years, because I had been told minimum 3 years. But mine.
So did he sign the papers, or what was his reaction when you said you're leaving?
When I said I was leaving, he was arrogant. He didn't think I was able to leave. I've been his victim. Where can I go?
Yeah, all those years.
I have 4 children. Where am I going? I remember him telling me several times, who would look at a woman who has 4 children? So he actually doubted that I could do it. So, but I was very gracious, and I had told him, I want us to call this off. I can't do this anymore. And so I'm taking the courage, because one of us has to be courageous. We can't continue like this, because we are hurting ourselves and we are hurting the children. I said, I'm the one who is going to go and file for divorce. He kept quiet, because he thought,
it was just another big joke.
It's just another big joke. And I went ahead, he was up the papers, and he did not bring any problems. So we went ahead, and 6 months down the line, divorce had been granted.
The custody was given to you?
Yes, the custody of the children.
He didn't even fight for the children?
He tried, because what happens is divorce is in 3 phases. There's a main suit, then there's children's matter, and then there's property. So when I filed for the divorce, halfway the divorce, he went and filed the children's matter, because he wanted to have the children. But that didn't go off, obviously, towards his side. We went through the process, and I was granted the custody of the children.
Does he have access to the children?
Yes, he does. He does have access to the children, though sometimes it proves difficult, because remember, once an abuser, always an abuser. So sometimes he will do stuff to these children that I'm not happy about. And so once in a while, I will be very cautious about how he deals with the children, because it's good that people understand that the abuser is a very complex, human being. They're dealing with personality issues, and so don't forget, it doesn't change him because of the fact that you're now divorced.
It actually makes it even more complicated.
It makes it even more complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite complex when it comes to visitations. But yes, to answer your question, yes, he does have access to the children.
What changed after the divorce?
For me, I found myself.
Wow.
And I began to live now my life, because I totally feel, though all those years I was just existing. I was not living. But one, I found my purpose in that pain. That to me is the greatest celebration I could ever give.
Amen.
Because I found my purpose. And my purpose now is to work with women who are going through what I have gone through, particularly, just generally domestic violence and even emotional abuse. And from that, I have even come up, I'm still working on this organization. I'm calling it Wounded But Not Bound.
Oh.
That's a word that I was given by God.
Wounded but not bound.
Yes.
How
because,
nice.
From my story, I have been wounded, but I am not bound.
You're free.
Yes.
And whoever Christ sets free, the Bible says is free indeed. What a story. Thank you, Kellen, for sharing your life with us. My goodness, that is a story and a journey that only God can usher you through. Look at what he has made you.
Amen.
And through you, many women will be empowered. So in case they want to reach you, how can they reach you?
I am on Facebook.
You're on Facebook?
Yes. The Wounded But Not Bound is on Facebook.
Is on Facebook.
So we can always chat on the Facebook and then move on from there.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, our viewer. Thank you for sharing your time with us. From me, Reverend Ruth Omoyo, and the City and family, and our guest, Kellen, and the wonderful technical team behind the scene. God bless you. See you next time.